Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for standing by for NIO Incorporated third quarter 2022 earnings conference call. At this time, all participants are in a listen-only mode. Today's conference call is being recorded. I will now turn the call over to your host, Ms. Eve Tang from Capital Markets. Please go ahead, Eve.
Good morning and good evening, everyone. Welcome to NIO's third quarter 2022 earnings conference call. The company's financial and operating results were published in the press release earlier today and are posted at the company's IR website. On today's call, we have Mr. William Li, Founder, Chairman of the Board, and Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Stephen Feng, Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Stanley Qu, Senior Vice President of Finance. Before we continue, please be kindly reminded that today's discussion will contain forward-looking statements made under the Safe Harbor provisions of the U.S. Private Securities Litigation Reform Act of 1995. Forward-looking statements involve inherent risks and uncertainties. As such, the company's actual results may be materially different from the views expressed today. Further information regarding risks and uncertainties is included in certain filings of the company with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, the Stock Exchange of Hong Kong Limited, and the Singapore Exchange Securities Trading Limited. The company does not assume any obligation to update any forward-looking statements, except as required under applicable law. Please also note that NIO's earnings press release and this conference call include discussions of unaudited GAAP financial information as well as unaudited non-GAAP financial measures. Please refer to NIO's press release, which contains a reconciliation of the unaudited non-GAAP measures to comparable GAAP measures. With that, I will now turn the call over to our CEO, Mr. William Li. William, please go ahead.
大家好，非常感谢各位参加未来2022年第三季度业绩沟通会议。
Hello everyone, thank you for joining NIO's third quarter 2022 earnings conference call.
2022年第三季度，未来共计交付了31607辆高端智能电动汽车，同比增长 29.3%， 创季度交付新高。
In the third quarter 2022, NIO delivered a total of 31,607 smart electric vehicles, up 29.3% year-over-year, setting a new quarterly high.
基于未来新一代技术平台 NT2， 我们发布和交付了3款新车型，全面提升了产品竞争力，进入了更多的高端细分市场，推动了需求的持续增长。
Based on our latest technology platform, NT 2.0, we have launched and delivered 3 new products, which has improved the competitiveness of our product lineup in all aspects and enabled NIO to enter more premium segments, catalyzing continuous demand growth.
10月份，我们克服了生产与供应链波动等多重挑战，交付了10059辆新车，同比增长 174.3%。我们将继续与供应链的合作伙伴密切合作，稳定零部件的供应，加快生产和交付工作。我们预计2022年第4季度的总交付量为43000到48000辆。
In October, overcoming the production and supply chain volatilities, we delivered 10,059 vehicles, representing a 174.3% increase year-over-year. We will continue to collaborate closely with our supply chain partners to stabilize component supply and further accelerate the vehicle production and delivery. We expect the total number of deliveries in the fourth quarter of 2022 to be between 43,000 to 48,000.
接下来，我跟大家交流一下公司研发和运营方面的一些重点工作。
Next, I would like to share some recent highlights of our R&D and operations.
9月份，智能电动轿跑 ET5 的展车陆续到店，进店客流创下历史新高，订单增长强劲。9月30号 ，ET5 正式开启交付，早期用户的满意度超过我们的预期。
In September, as the show cars of ET5, a smart electric mid-size sedan, began to be on display in our stores, store traffic reached a record high and order intake witnessed a strong growth momentum. On September 30, we officially kicked off the delivery of ET5, and the preliminary user satisfaction rate exceeded our expectations.
在过去几个月中 ，NT2 平台斑样智能系统多次迭代升级，用户体验持续提升。我们对基于 NT2 平台新车型的竞争力非常有信心。
Over the past couple of months, Banyan, the digital system of NT2, has iterated and upgraded multiple times with continuous user experience improvement. We have strong confidence in the market competitiveness of the new models based on the NT2 platform.
销售和服务网络方面，我们现有399家未来中心和未来空间，覆盖149个城市。拥有280家服务中心和交付中心，覆盖163个城市。
With respect to the sales and service network, we now have 399 new houses and new spaces in 149 cities and 280 service centers and delivery centers in 163 cities.
充换电网络方面，我们已经累计布局1210座换电站。累计为用户提供超过1400万次的换电服务，我们也已经累计部署2055座充电站，包含5765根超充桩和6077根目的地充电桩。与此同时，我们的充电地图在中国接入了第三方充电桩超过59万根，在欧洲接入超过38万根。
In terms of the charging and swapping network, NIO has installed a total of 1,210 power swap stations and provided 14 million battery swaps for users. NIO has installed 2,055 charging stations with 5,765 power chargers and 6,077 destination chargers in place. In the meantime, our power map has connected to over 590,000 third-party chargers in China and more than 380,000 chargers in Europe.
去年9月份，我们进入挪威市场，产品和服务受到了当地用户的喜爱，用户社区不断成长，为我们进入更多的欧洲国家建立了基础和信心。
Since we entered the Norwegian market last September, our products and services have been well received by local users, and the user community has been growing rapidly, which has laid a solid foundation for and boosted our confidence in entering more markets in Europe.
2022年10月7日，我们在德国举办了 NIO Berlin 2022，向欧洲用户全面介绍了未来的产品和服务体系，宣布正式进入德国、荷兰、丹麦和瑞典市场。
On October 7 this year, we held NIO Berlin 2022, where we comprehensively introduced our products and services to users in Europe, marking our official market entry in Germany, the Netherlands, Denmark, and Sweden.
NIO Berlin 获得了欧洲用户和汽车行业的高度关注，反响热烈。我们正在欧洲开展大规模试驾，并已经开启首批用户交付。
NIO Berlin drew a lot of attention and recognition from users and the auto industry in Europe. We are now organizing large-scale test drives and kicked off user delivery in Europe.
2022年11月9日，在德国权威汽车媒体 Autobild 的2022年度金方向盘奖评选中 ，ET7 被评选为年度最佳中大型车。未来的产品和创新技术受到了欧洲用户、行业专家以及专业媒体的高度认可。
Yesterday, NIO ET7 won the 2022 Golden Steering Wheel Award granted by the prestigious German magazine Autobild, as ET7 was voted the best car in the median and upper class category. Both our products and innovative technology have been highly recognized by the users, industry experts, and professional media in Europe.
为更好地服务欧洲用户，我们正在柏林、法兰克福、鹿特丹、哥本哈根、斯德哥尔摩等欧洲10个主要城市建设未来中心和未来空间。 并计划于2022年底在欧洲建成20座换电站，2023年底建成120座换电站，为当地用户提供可充可换可升级的家电体验。
To better serve user communities in Europe, we plan to open new houses and new spaces in 10 major European cities, such as Berlin, Frankfurt, Rotterdam, Copenhagen, and Stockholm. We also plan to install 20 power swap stations in Europe by the year end, and another 100 by the end of 2023, so that more users can experience NIO's chargeable, swappable, and upgradable power system in Europe.
此外，我们已经在柏林设立了研发中心，开展数字座舱和智能辅助驾驶系统本地化的研发和落地，持续提升本地用户的智能体验。
In addition, we have established an R&D center in Berlin for localized development and deployment of digital cockpit and ADAS to continuously improve the intelligent digital experience of local users.
9月27日，未来与丹麦自然保护协会和丹麦自然基金会达成 Clean Parks 合作，积极融入当地社区，共担责任，为可持续发展的未来而努力。
On September 27, NIO announced the collaboration with the Danish Society for Natural Conservation and the Danish Nature Foundation on the Clean Parks Initiative. NIO hopes to actively engage with the local communities, share the responsibilities, and jointly make contributions to a more sustainable future.
9月30日，秉承 Blue Sky Coming 的初心，未来发布了首份 ESG 报告，未来2021年环境、社会及公司治理报告，分享了公司2021年在环境、社会及公司治理方面的管理实践与成果。
On September 30, upholding NIO's original aspiration of Blue Sky Coming, NIO released the first NIO Environment, Social and Governance Report 2021, where NIO shared its ESG management practices and performance in 2021.
2022年，我们在产品、核心技术、充换电和销售服务网络等方面进一步投入和布局，为参与全球市场的长期竞争打下了坚实基础。虽然外部环境的变化给我们的运营带来了巨大的挑战，我们相信公司有能力在专注于产品技术创新、服务能力提升的同时，进一步优化成本结构，提升运营效率，为全球用户提供超越期待的产品和服务。
In 2022, NIO has further advanced in product, core technologies, charging and swapping network, as well as a sales and service network, which has laid a solid foundation for us to compete in the global market for the long run. In spite of the operation challenges brought forward by the changing microenvironment, we believe that NIO is fully capable of staying focused on product and technology innovations, as well as service capability improvement, while further optimizing the cost structure and improving operational efficiency to introduce more beyond the experience products and services to users worldwide.
感谢大家的支持。现在 Steven 将为大家介绍2022年第三季度的财务业绩。有请 Steven。
As always, thank you for your support. With that, I will now turn the call over to Steven to provide the financial details for the third quarter 2022. Over to you, Steven.
Thank you, William. I will now go over our key for the third quarter of 2022, and to be mindful of the length of call, I will reference to RMB only in my discussion today. I encourage listeners to refer to our earnings press release, which is posted online for additional details. Our total revenues in the third quarter were 13.0 billion RMB, representing an increase of 32.6% year-over-year and 26.3% quarter-over-quarter. Our total revenues are made of two parts: vehicle sales and other sales. Vehicle sales in the third quarter were 11.9 billion RMB, representing an increase of 38.2% year-over-year and 24.7% quarter-over-quarter. The increase in vehicle sales year-over-year and quarter-over-quarter was mainly attributed to higher deliveries as a result of more diversified product mix offered to our users. Other sales in third quarter were 1.1 billion RMB, representing a decrease of 8.5% year-over-year, and increase of 48.2% quarter-over-quarter. The decrease in other sales year-over-year was mainly due to the decreased revenue derived from sales of automotive regulatory credits, offset by the increase in other revenues in line with the incremental vehicle sales. The increase in other sales quarter-over-quarter was mainly attributed to the increased revenue derived from sales of automotive regulatory credits and increase in other revenues in line with incremental vehicle sales. Gross margin in the third quarter of 2022 was 13.3%, compared with 20.3% in the third quarter of 2021 and 13.0% in the second quarter of 2022. The decrease of gross margin year-over-year was mainly attributed to, first, the decreased revenue derived from sales of automotive regulatory credits with high sales margin. Second, the decrease of vehicle margin. And third, the reduction in other sales margin resulting from expanding investment in power and service network. The increase of gross margin quarter-over-quarter was mainly attributed to sales of automotive regulatory credits with high sales margin. More specifically, vehicle margin in the third quarter was 16.4%, compared with 18.0% in the third quarter of 2021 and 16.7% in the second quarter of 2022. The decrease of vehicle margin year-over-year was mainly attributed to the increased battery cost per unit, which was partially offset by decrease in subsidization in user vehicle financing arrangements. Vehicle margin remained stable quarter-over-quarter. R&D expenses in the third quarter were 2.9 billion RMB, representing an increase of 146.8% year-over-year and 37% quarter-over-quarter. The increase in R&D expenses year-over-year and quarter-over-quarter was mainly attributed to the increased personnel costs in research and development functions, as well as incremental design and development costs for new products and technologies. SG&A expenses in third quarter were 2.7 billion RMB, representing an increase of 48.6% year-over-year and 18.8% quarter-over-quarter. The increase in SG&A expenses year-over-year and quarter-over-quarter was primarily due to, first, the increase in personnel costs related to sales and the general corporate functions. Second, increased expenses related to the company's sales and service network expansion. Third, increase in marketing and promotional activities to promote our vehicle in China and Europe. Loss for operation in the third quarter was 3.9 billion RMB, representing an increase of 290.2% year-over-year and 36.0% quarter-over-quarter. Other losses in the third quarter of 2022 was 495.6 million RMB, representing an increase of 528.2 million RMB from other income of 32.6 million RMB in the third quarter of 2021, an increase of 305.6 million RMB from the second quarter of 2022. The increase of other losses over the third quarter of 2021 and second quarter of 2022 was mainly due to loss from the revaluation of our overseas RMB-related assets as a result of the depreciation of RMB against US dollars in the third quarter of 2022. Net loss in the third quarter was 4.1 billion RMB, representing an increase of 392.1% year-over-year and 49.1% quarter-over-quarter. Net loss attributable to NIO's ordinary shareholders in the third quarter was 4.1 billion RMB, representing an increase of 44.9% year-over-year and 50.9% quarter-over-quarter. Our balance of cash and cash equivalents, restricted cash, short-term investment, and long-term deposits were 51.4 billion RMB as of September 30th, 2022. Now, this concludes our prepared remarks. I will now turn the call over to the operator to facilitate our Q&A session.
Thank you. We will now begin the question and answer session. To ask a question, you may press star then one on your touchtone phone. If you are using a speakerphone, please pick up your handset before pressing the keys. If at any time your question has been addressed and you would like to withdraw your question, please press star then two. For the benefit of all participants on today's call, please limit yourselves to 2 questions, and if you have additional questions, you can re-enter the queue. At this time, we will pause momentarily to assemble our roster. Our first question comes from Ming Sun Lee with Bank of America. Please go ahead.
William、Steven 还有未来的管理层你们好。我这边就是2个问题。第一个问题呢是关于这个供应链的问题。想了解，因为我们原来的预期是今年应该是目标是15万台，也就是约当是4季度在6万7、6万8千台。我们现在这个指引的话，可不可以理解就是说，因为包括疫情，然后还有供应链的这个紧张的影响，所以我们大概就是损失了2万多台的一个产能。也想请威廉这边可以跟我们更新一下，就是包括副车架跟芯片先前较紧张的零部件的供应的情况。假设1季度就是合肥这边没有疫情的影响的话，我们正常的1个月或者是1个季度的话，我们这边的零部件的产能大概能够供应多少的车？我翻译一下这个问题。Previously, your capacity is capped by component supply, especially the welding part as well as chips. So could you also update your latest capacity, component capacity, if there is no COVID control impact? Thank you.
好，谢谢Min。确实在10月份的话呢，我们这个整个的这个交付量和我们自己就生产吧，和我们自己的预计确实是少了几千台。10月份的话，当然好几个因素的影响吧。这个有这个我们的像讲到的副车架对我们的这个是有一些影响。但副车架的话，在11月份的话，应该我们是基本上就已经解决了。那么第二个来讲的话呢，我们确实也是。因为我们 ET5 的话呢，用到了我们新的这个 EDS 的工厂，这个就在我们的这个 F2 边上，我们建了一个全新的工厂。这个工厂 EDS 的工厂的自动化程度是非常高，我们大概30多个工人就能支持这个就能支持整个的工厂。但是这个里面的爬产的话呢，也确实影响了不少大概影响了我们大概2-3千台的产出吧。那么另外还有一个当然就是这个疫情也确实影响了一些，这个大概我们前后加起来影响了1周多的产能吧。所以这几个因素加起来的话呢，让我们10月份确实是少产了不少当然这个对11月份现在我们已经生产已经恢复了，我们的 EDS 的这个在下周我们也会新增加1条产线，到月底差不多也能爬上来。那么副车架的问题已经解决了，那么我们预计在12月份的话，我们应该是就 ET5 能够达到我们爬坡的预期ET7 和 ES7 目前基本上没有大的障碍。
谢谢威廉。那我这边第二个问题。
阿明，稍等一下，我们也翻译一下，谢谢。
Thank you, Ming, for your question. Yes, regarding the production in October, there has been some impact due to several reasons, and the impact is around several thousand. One, the factor is because of the subframe, just like you mentioned, but we expect that this will be resolved in November. And then the second reason is the new EDS for ET5. We actually have a new EDS plant next to our factory 2, and the automation level of the new EDS plant is very high. We only need to have around 30,000 people to support the overall operation of this new EDS plant. Due to the ramp-up volatilities of the EDS, overproduction is affected by around 2,000 to 3,000. And the third reason is the COVID-19 situations. I believe this has impacted the production for around 1 week. So overall speaking, all those factors have affected the production in October, but we have resumed the normal production now, and we expect to have a new production line for the new EDS next week, and probably by the end of this month, this new EDS line will be ready and we can ramp up the production. We have already solved the subframe issue, and I believe probably in December, ET5 production will not be an issue. And as of now, I don't believe that there is any production issue for the ET7 and the ES7.
谢谢威廉。那第二个问题，美国半导体芯片的限制对公司以及行业的影响如何？英伟达现在可以卖A800芯片到中国，那跟 A100这边的话，是否会对我们的这个自驾的进步的迭代速度会有什么影响吗？The U.S. semi ban, how will this impact the development for the industry and also NIO? Besides, NVIDIA currently can sell 800 chips to China. If compared to A100, how do you see the impact to the progress of our autonomous driving training? 谢谢。
英伟达的这个芯片的这个禁令，它主要是涉及到我们的这个云端的这个 AI 的训练芯片。目前呢，我们手上有足够多的这个A100的这个芯片，完全可以满足我们很长一段时间的这个 AD 的这个训练的需求啊。当然，我们也在积极的评估这个相关的这个动态，包括和一些云服务商去进行合作啊，也在积极评估一些长期的方案啊，支持整个 AD 的这个持续的迭代啊。从目前来讲，我们认为不会影响我们，目前来说不会影响我们整个在这方面的这个需求。
Thank you for your question. Regarding the CHIP Act, I believe that this mainly affected the chip used for cloud training. Right now, I believe that we have sufficient chips like the A100 to satisfy the need for the AD training in the long run. But at the same time, we're also exploring different opportunities. For example, we're considering working together with some cloud service providers, and we're also evaluating some long-term solutions to support the iteration of our AD solutions. As of now, I don't actually see any impact on overall operations.
Thank you, Min.
谢谢威廉。
Our next question comes from Paul Gong with UBS. Please go ahead.
谢谢威廉啊，我两个问题吧，就第一个问题是，您刚才提到了就是这个 ET5的消费者的满意度是超过了预期，但是没有说这么一个订单超过预期，就我想听一听，就说您现在所看到的这个 ET5的一个订单的情况。跟之前的一个预期相比怎么样？因为为这个准备的产能，整个2工厂其实还是挺多的啊，尤其是从那个10月25号之后， 特斯拉又在掀起了另一波的降价，就降价了之后，不知道这边有没有看到一些那个影响和冲击。So my first question is regarding the ET5 order. Just now you mentioned that the satisfaction level has beat your expectation, but you didn't mention how the orders intake has been. How do you see the orders intake since the launch, and especially after the late October after Tesla launched another wave of price cuts? Do you see any impacts from there? This is my first question.
谢谢 Paul。确实，这个可能这个 ET5 的订单，因为现在大家都关注什么时候交啊，所以确实这个 ET5 的订单，目前来讲的话呢，对我们来说确实不是一个问题啊。当然，我们目前还是专注在这个生产的这个爬坡和这个，包括大家知道 ET5 就是我们所有的新车在刚交付初期的话呢，我们都非常关注它的这个质量爬坡的一个过程。所以这个我们是为什么要特别强调一下。当然 ET5 整个的需求毫无疑问是非常强劲的，这一点的话呢，就是是和我们预期的是一样的。当然我们肯定是预期越多越好了。但从另外一个角度来讲的话呢，这个我们也不希望用户等太长的时间。特斯拉的降价对我们应该讲，因为它以前都一直降价，所以对我们来说也不是什么新鲜事，所以我们并没有看到对我们的需求有什么特别的波动的影响。就因为特斯拉现在这个它从它的这个 Model Y Model 3的话呢，它跟我们的价差本身就是一直都是比较大的。Model Y 的话呢，它因为做一个 SUV 的话呢，它跟我们的包括 ES6 的价差也一直是比较大的，所以我们其实不严格的认为他们跟我们在一个这个市场的区间啊，从一个价格带的角度来讲的话，所以 so far 的话，我们目前没觉得对我们有什么特别大的影响。
Thank you, Paul, for your question. Of course, I understand regarding the ET5 orders, the more important thing for us is right now to find ways to deliver the ET5 to users and shorten the waiting time for the users. So generally speaking, order is not an issue for us regarding ET5. Regarding the ramp up of ET5, because this is still at a relatively early stage, so we would like to pay more attention to the quality improvement and make sure we can stabilize the quality of the ET5. The demand for ET5 is very strong as we expected. Of course, if the order can be even stronger, the better. But at the same time, we don't want the users to wait for a really long time. If we come back to Tesla, Tesla often cuts its prices, so we don't actually think this affects the user demand regarding new products. If we look at the specific products, like the Model 3, there's a big price gap compared with other products. And if we compare the Model Y with our ES6, we don't actually believe we're competing in the same segment. So if we look at the pricing of our product and the positioning of our product, strictly speaking, we're not competing with Tesla in the same segment.
好的，我的第二个问题是关于那个费用的，因为这个季度不管是从研发费用还是这个销售营销费用都相对于上个季度增加了不少。就我想问一下，就是说这是一个阶段性的，就在这一刻要有新产品的上市，然后又在开拓新的欧洲市场的一个短期的一个情况呢，还是就是说这会是一个结构性甚至就是说趋势性的进一步的增加？有没有就是说一个大致的一个预期吧，它应该到一个什么样的水准？ So my second question is regarding the expenses, including both R&D and SG&A. It seems to be climbing up a lot Q on Q this quarter. Is that just temporary because you have new products and trying to explore the new market in Europe, or is it more like structural? And if so, what is your expectation for its trend going forward?
Yeah, Stanley.
Hi, Paul. This is Stanley. Yeah, the increase of SG&A in Q3 compared with Q2 is because our sales and service network in China and also in Europe, since we entered more country market in Europe this third quarter, and also some marketing and promotion activities, more marketing and promotion activities in Q3 compared with Q2. From the long term, I think also you can check with this result from Q3. SG&A as percentage of sales revenue will continue to be optimized along with the improvement of our operation efficiency. I think in 2023 and also the coming years, you will see a stable trend for further improvement of this ratio. Thank you, Paul.
研发方面的话，我补充一下，研发费用我们确实大家看到了 Q3 的增长比较多啊。我们主要还是跟我们的这个研发节奏，特别是我们新的品牌，还有我们围绕着电池，围绕着这个也包括这个芯片等等在内的一些研发投入，这个进入到了这个包括人员，包括这个一些测试啊，包括一些这个EDD 啊等等方面的一些支出的增加啊。那这个都是我们计划的一部分吧，并不是一个有什么特别的啊。
Regarding the R&D expenses, yes, we do see some increase in the third quarter compared with the second quarter. This is mainly because of our new product development cadence, as well as other initiatives like the battery chipsets and the test and validations when we enter new markets, as well as the employee cost and the EDD cost. This is actually part of our plan, and we don't think there's any other additional R&D expenses that is out of the planning of the company.
不过在研发费用这一部分的话，我们基本上现在我们的这个整个的研发的这个布局和我们的这个工作的开展是基本上算基本不能叫稳定啊，基本定型了吧。应该讲我们以后差不多每个季度的研发投入的强度，包括人员费用在内啊，就整个的研发费用差不多会保持在一个季度30个亿人民币左右。所以总体上来讲，我们还是会控制这个会持续的提升这个研发的体系化的效率吧。从投入强度方面的话，我们基本上会保持一个季度30个亿人民币左右，会比较差不太多，会稳定在这个水平，在一段时间之内。
Regarding the R&D operations, I believe right now we have entered a relatively stable phase regarding the R&D development work as well as the operations. So for us, we believe when it comes to the R&D expenses, including the human resources cost, it will stay at a relatively stable level. For example, probably every quarter it should be around 3 billion RMB. Of course, at the same time, we will continue to improve the system efficiency of our R&D efforts. And but for some time from now, I believe it will stay at this level to make sure we can have more products and technology innovations to provide better experience for the users.
好，谢谢 Paul。
我跟进一下 SG&A 这个季度欧洲能够占到几成的一个比重啊 ？So what is roughly the ratio of Europe accounts for this quarter's SG&A?
Oh, yeah. Hi Paul. You know, Europe is now at quite initial stage, so currently the overall expense is not a big percentage of the overall SG&A. Yeah. Now the sales and marketing team for our Europe business is about 500 headcount. So yeah, that's basically the information for our Europe business.
Okay, thank you very much. 非常感谢。
谢谢。
Our next question comes from Tim Xiao with Morgan Stanley. Please go ahead.
管理层你们好，非常感谢接受我的问题，也恭喜这个 ET5 取得非常好的市场反馈。我觉得两个问题，第一个问题想跟进一下就整体这个生产交付的部分了，因为 刚才也提到就是4季度的一个 guidance， 但实际上大概 imply 了就是11、12月个别大概会有17000到19000的一个交付水平哦。那威廉也提到了我们现在复产的这个速度非常的好，那是不是可以分享一下，就是我们到了年底大概2个厂的这个产出的峰值可以达到什么样的一个水平？那明年的话，我们现在有任何预期吗？就这个产出的这个单月的一个速度可以到什么样的一个水平？那另外，您会担心这个生产瓶颈会不会长期变成一个结构性的问题啊？因为现在看起来整个总体可能国内这个状况还是比较管得比较严。那另外的话，市场有更多的玩家，更多的车型。那供应商我们看起来好像这个产能的扩产跟良率的提升都比原先预期慢许多。所以这个会不会其实延续到明年，变成是一整年的一个结构性的问题？好，这是我的第一个问题。So my first question is about the production and delivery. So I think based on the fourth quarter guidance, basically the average delivery in November, December could be around 17 to 19,000. So what would be the peak monthly output NIO can reach by end of this year? And how would the trajectory look like into first half next year? With the supply chain bottleneck, the kind of structure issue, given the unchanged COVID policy and more new model, new players, and likely longer time for suppliers to expand their capacity and improve their production yield. 好，谢谢，这是我第一个问题。
谢谢 Tim。总体上来讲呢，我觉得从我们来这个看的话，当然我们这个疫情防控方面带来的一些短期的一些压力的波动性，这个我们确实很难去预计，这个也请大家理解，这个我们非常难去对这个事情做一个预计。但从这个供应链还有包括这个我们自己的这个整车生产的角度来讲的话呢，应该讲我们现在跟这个整个的这个链条应该能支持我们明年整个的一个交付的目标啊。当然整车生产已经不是问题了。那供应链的话呢，还会有一些问题。举个例子来说的话呢，比如说我们12月份的一些整个的交付量，我们就会受到我们的这个功率半导体的这个芯片的一些约束啊。它最大的量，比如我们的碳化硅的这个芯片的量，它有一定的这个，它有一个总量的限制啊，会有点限制。但我们觉得从明年来讲的话，这些应该总体上都还好啊。所以从供应链和生产的角度来讲的话呢，从一个总体的那种能力来讲的话，不考虑疫情的这个影响的话，我觉得基本上已经不太会是我们的瓶颈了。
About speaking, it's quite difficult for us to make an estimation regarding the impact of the COVID control and prevention measures on the operation of the company. But if we talk about the supply chain and the vehicle production, I believe the vehicle production capability should be able to meet the delivery target we set for next year. And if we speak of the supply chain, we do see some challenges. For example, in December, we will face some constraints regarding the supply of the silicon carbide. But if we look at 2023, I believe the supply chain and the production capacity have the capability to meet the demands and the target we set up for ourselves.
从明年的整车生产的角度来讲的话呢，我认为对我们会是一个非常舒服的一个节奏，因为我们2个工厂都保持可以在一个单班15万辆这么一个产出的话。就对我们整个的生产节奏还有质量各方面来讲的话，运营效率都是比较好的一个节奏。
For 2023, I believe for the vehicle production, we will have a relatively sufficient production capacity to meet the demand. And if we can achieve a 150,000 production capacity on one shift, I believe the production of the vehicle will be carried out in a very smooth manner.
好的，那我第二个问题想跟管理层请教一下，因为过去一段时间观察下来，感觉好像这个国内这边智能电动车的这个产品生命周期啊，相较于燃油车来比，好像是缩短而并非拉长。 那如果考虑到前期我们比较大量的一个研发投入啊和工艺这个制造成本的一个提升，那想听听看您怎么看这个中长期我们所谓的智能电动车的一个稳态毛利率啊，或者是经营利润率是否原先市场本来是预期可能这个稳态的毛利率是在20到25之间，那这个是不是太过乐观了，或者是我们怎么去看这个长期的一个盈利能力？So my second question is about the profitability because based on our own observation, we noticed the life cycle of smart EV in China is actually getting shorter rather than longer than traditional cars. So considering the very sizable R&D and manufacturing investment, what would be the more reasonable terminal growth or operating margins, and we should look for, especially I think the competition is getting more intense. Thank you.
谢谢。确实，这个整个智能电动汽车，因为这个智能化的这个它的迭代速度比较快啊，我们确实看到整个的这个产品的迭代周期肯定是更快了。那我们基本上认为，差不多3年吧，会是一个大的一个换代的这么一个大的这样一个节奏。这个其实我们整个NIO 也是大程度按照这个节奏在迭代我们的智能化的技术。那在这件事情上的话呢，可能每个公司的策略有些不一样。你比如从 NIO 来说的话，大家如果去看的话，我们一代车所有的这个软件硬件，我们都是一个平台啊。比如说我们 NT2， 我们是所有的车都是一样的，我们 NT1 所有的车都是一样的。那并且的话呢，我们的电池包也都是大家也都知道，我们都是 Unified Pack。那我们的动力系统其实也是很有限的组合，我们只是在这种外形造型啊，这个托派的方面的话，我们有一些差异化，满足不同用户的需求。所以总体上来讲，我们觉得我们这样的一个研发效率还是非常非常高的啊。那当然，这个20到25的毛利率，我不觉得这个是一个大的问题。大家如果去看看从 NIO 来说的话，即使考虑到今年的电池涨了这么多的价，因为我们的整车虽然也提了一些价，但是并没有提那么多啊。那我们仍然也能够保持还是有一个还算 OK 的一个毛利率吧。那其实我们以前到过20多的毛利率啊。如果我们假设电池能够回落到一个正常的理性的这么一个价格的话，那个我们觉得20到25的毛利率其实不太是一个问题啊。当然长期来讲，随着垂直一体化，我们的这个在电池芯片方面的投入，我们觉得我们仍然有提高毛利率的空间。所以从我们整体的一个长期的战略的角度来讲，我们认为25到30之间的毛利率，我们是能够看得到的啊，不是一个看不到的事情。当然 massive market 这个挑战会大一些啊。事实上来讲，如果我们去看 massive market 的话，把所有公司加到一块的话，我估计整体的毛利可能都是负的啊。整体的毛利都是负的，我是这么一个大概的一个看法。当然，比亚迪因为它有这个电池啊和很多零部件方面的一个垂直整合啊，当然它是确实还是非常还是做得非常的好啊。所以我觉得在 massive market 这一部分的话呢，如果没有垂直的一体化的能力，其实要达到20到20个点以上的毛利率是非常难的啊。这是我们总体的一个观察吧。
Thank you for your question. Regarding the smart electric vehicles, I believe we have a much faster iteration cycle compared with the traditional vehicles. And we believe the iteration cycle should be around 3 years. And this is how we iterating over smart technologies in NIO. Of course, different companies have different strategies and different iteration cycles. But in NIO, if we look at our technology platforms, and we believe with one technology platform, so we actually have the same kind of hardware and software for all the vehicles based on this technology platform. So for example, previously we have explained we have the NIO technology 1.0 and the NIO technology 2.0. For all the products based on NIO technology 1.0, they have the same kind of software and hardware when it comes to the smart technologies, and that's the same for NIO Technology 2.0. At the same time, we also have the unified battery pack, and we also share a lot of commonalities when it comes to the vehicle platforms. Of course, previously we mentioned we would like to offer different kind of top hats to meet the diversified demands and taste for different users. So if we think about the technology platforms and of a vehicle platform strategy, I think 20 to 25% vehicle gross margin is not a very big challenge for us. But if we look at 2022 specifically, the cost of the battery skyrocketed. So of course, at the same time, we have increased the price of our products, and even against this backdrop, we have, I believe, achieved a relatively reasonable vehicle gross margin. Previously, we have also achieved 20% vehicle gross margin in the past. In the past, we didn't have the battery cost increases, so this is a relatively reasonable vehicle gross margin for our products. In the future, if the battery cost can come down to a reasonable level, I think it's possible for us to regain the 20 to 25% vehicle gross margin with our products. In addition to that, with our vehicle technology vertical integration, including the battery, the chipset, I believe we will have more room to improve for the vehicle gross margin, and it's possible for us to achieve a 25 to 30% vehicle gross margin. If we look at the mass market, I believe the challenge is much bigger, because if we combine all the companies in the mass market right now, I think the overall gross margin is actually negative. Of course, BYD is an exception because they have the vertical integration of the batteries and other technologies. So if we do not have the vertical integration capabilities in the mass market, it will be quite challenging to survive in the mass market. But if we have these capabilities in place, I think it's possible for us to also achieve 20 to 25% with our mass market products.
Thank you, Tim.
谢谢魏磊的分享，谢谢。
Our next question comes from Ben Wong with Credit Suisse. Please go ahead.
谢谢各位领导。我第一个问题呢是想问三个确认哈，因为我们之前指引过呢，就是明年的四季度会赚钱，想问一下是否维持这个指引。第二个呢，就是我们指引过这个 ET5的销量超过宝马3系，现在是否维持这个指引？第三个呢，就是我们这个。我们就是之前也说过，我们的毛利率今年会有18到20，不知道还是否维持这么一个指引哈。所以第一个问题就是关于这个指引。My question first one is about your guidance. It actually has been guided three things. Number one, the ET5 will be higher volume than BMW 3 Series. And number two, guidance is that it will break even in the number 4 quarter next year. And number three, guidance is that this year you will have 18 to 20% gross margin for the vehicle. Did you maintain this guidance for this? Thank you.
谢谢王斌啊，这个总体来讲，我们都还是保持我们的一个这个方向啊，就是明年四季度break even 呢，我们从我们目前来看的话，我们觉得 NIO 的核心业务啊，就是说我们在明年四季度 break even， 我们认为是没有问题的，我们仍然保持这样的一个计划。当然这个里面大家也知道，我们现在有2个新的品牌在研发，我们还有这个电池，我们有这个芯片，我们还有这个手机啊，这样一些围绕着我们整个的这个战略新的业务这样一些投入。我们明年这些新的业务投入差不多在30到40个亿的这样一个研发投入的规模。所以如果从明年四季度来看的话呢，如果差不多一个季度10个亿吧，不包括这些的话呢，我们觉得我们保持这个盈亏的 break even， 我们认为还是有信心的。这第一个问题。你先说。
Thank you, Bing, for your question. Overall speaking, that's still the direction we're aiming for. For the core business of NIO, I we are still aiming to achieve break even in the third quarter of 2023, and this is still our plan. At the same time, we're also working on different strategic new business. For example, we have 2 new brands and the battery chipset and the smartphone business at the same time. So if we look at 2023, the investment for those strategic new businesses is going to be around 3 to 4 billion RMB. It means that probably around 1 billion RMB every quarter. If we take all those strategic new business aside, we are still very confident to achieve a break even for NIO core business in the fourth quarter of 2023.
但第二个问题 ，ET5 超过 BMW 3，这个车比那个 BMW 3要好太多了，我觉得我们还是非常有信心的啊。当然这个不算一个指引吧，这个是我们的这个另外联合创始人他在一个市场营销活动上的一个 marketing 啊。但我觉得从我的一个角度来看，我觉得我们完全有这样的机会。
So for the second question regarding ET5, you mentioned previously the one of our co-founder mentioned that the ET5 volume is going to exceed the volume of the BMW 3 Series in a event. And of course, this is not a guidance for us, but because I believe ET5 is much better than BMW 3 Series, so we're very confident to achieve this target.
第三个毛利率，如果说今年的话，确实有挑战。我们主要还是因为电池的价格，大家知道碳酸锂的近期的价格，仍然保持了高位，而且还提高了不少啊，跟最低的时候到过40多万，现在就在60万左右的一个水平。因为我们的这个电池价格是跟这个有联动的，这个确实影响了我们 Q4 大概几个点的毛利吧。这个确实是 out of 我们 control 的啊，我们也没办法说再去涨价，所以这个我们会有一些压力，但是保持毛利率的稳定啊，这个我们是能做得到的。相对来说，4季度的毛利率在3季度的水平上保持一个相对的稳定。当然我觉得这个锂的价格不是一个供需的问题啊，因为如果我们去看的话，我不觉得中国有哪个电动汽车的公司因为电池供不上来，大家应该也没有听说过，因为电池买不到电池影响了交付的啊，目前是没有的，所以我总体上判断不是一个供应的问题，所以我们看一看嘛，我觉得锂价它毫无疑问应该下降啊，但这个时机的话，到底什么时候，确实这个我们也很难去预计啊，但对我们的影响是非常大的。大家知道我们的每一个电池包用的电池量比较多啊，平均来说差80多度吧，接近90度电。所以如果碳酸锂的这个价格一直维持这么高的话，对我们毛利率确实会有影响。大家可以给大家一个预计啊，就是每10万的这样的一个价格，对我们的毛利率差不多是2个点左右。对碳酸锂每10万这个价格对我们的毛利差不多就影响2个点。所以如果从60万降到40万，那我们就有4个点的毛利就出来。但如果能降到它合理的10几万的水平啊，大体上能给我们释放8个点的毛利出来。所以这就是 reality， 这就是现在我们面临的一个整个外部环境的一个变化。
For the vehicle gross margin, in 2022, I believe there's still many challenges for us, especially when it comes to the lithium carbonate cost. Right now, the lithium carbonate cost still stays at a very high level. Previously, it has dropped to around 400,000 RMB, and now is going back, or actually reached a new high that is around 600,000 RMB. This has significantly affected the battery cost. And for us, this is actually out of our control, and it's very difficult for us to predict. But I believe we can still remain a relatively stable vehicle gross margin in the fourth quarter compared with the third quarter. For the lithium cabinet cost, I would like to probably share some insights. I don't think the price or the cost of the lithium cabinet is due to the supply situation, because right now if you look at the car companies in China, I don't think there's any car companies that cannot deliver their products because of the battery shortage. So of course in the future we believe the lithium cabinet cost will go down, but we cannot predict when. This has a relatively big impact on us because for all of the products we have a relatively high battery capacity. Averagely speaking, for each of our vehicles, the battery is around 80 to 90 kilowatt hours. So if the lithium cabinet cost stays at a very high level, this is going to have a big impact on the vehicle gross margin. For us, maybe I can give you some numbers which will probably help you to understand the situation. If we think about 100,000 RMB cost for the lithium cabinet, this is actually affecting of a vehicle gross margin by around 2.02%. And if we can see the lithium cabinet cost drops from 600,000 to 400,000, then this is going to improve our vehicle gross margin by around 4%. So if the lithium cabinet cost can drop to even lower, probably around 100,000 RMB, which is a reasonable price for the lithium cabinet, then it means that our vehicle gross margin can improve by probably around 8%. So this is the reality we are facing.
好的，谢谢。那我还第二个问题，最后一个问题就是，我们看到 ET5好像现在下的订单要到3月份才能拿到车哈，明显的成为一个爆款，也成为我们未来的 Model 3。那我的问题就是说呢，我们未来的 Model Y 会是哪个车型呢？因为有媒体有报道说我们会出一个ET5的列装版本，或者说是一个 Wagon 版本。想问这个车型会在未来的12月份的未来日上出现吗？我翻译一下。Actually, we just do some data check that ET5, if you press order today, you actually can only get a car in February or March. This obviously a better selling product. Looks like NIO's Model 3. So my question is about what's the NIO's Model Y. We from media like NIO may launch a product called ET5 Wagon, and we see this going to be showcased in the upcoming NIO Day in December this year. Thank you.
谢谢黄斌。明年的话，明年上半年我们有5款车型会推出，所以总有一款属于 Model Y。但我的意思就是，我们还是看总量吧。就是我们其实一个总的策略还是，我们在一个整个平台上，我们的一个总量，这个还是我们更看重的。如果从 NIO 的策略的角度来讲，我们在一个 Premium 的市场里边。我们相信这个用一个更高效的方式去满足用户的个性化需求，是我们总体的一个 philosophy。所以大家如果想象一下，明年的上半年到6月份的时候，我们有8款车型所以我们相信它能满足在30万到50万的这个区间里面的用户的一个基本上满足这个除了 MPV 没有人，我们确实没有 MPV 这个满足这个用户的各种各样的需求，我们是觉得这是我们一个总的策略这个我希望大家从这个角度去看这个。当然，加起来的量，我相信还是能达到我们的预期的。我们也并不期望某一款车能到几万辆一个月的水平在中国就能到几万辆一款车，这也不是我们的策略大家都像我们ET5一个月1万多台的话，我觉得。也不能太多了，太多了接车也不好一个月真的ET5卖3万台，我也不太喜欢，其实这个事情
So for the product lineup in the first quarter of next year, in the first half of next year, we're going to have 5 new products, and I believe probably one of them is going to be like the Model Y to Tesla, like you mentioned. But for us, we focus more on the overall volume of all the product lineup. We are in the premium market segment, so our philosophy is to satisfy the diversified user demand with high efficiency. In the price range from 300,000 to 500,000, we will provide different products to satisfy the diversified user demands and the taste. So I believe that with our product lineup, we should be able to achieve a good overall delivery volume that can meet our expectations. I don't actually expect that one product can sell around over, or probably it's around, can sell over 100,000 units in China. For example, for ET5, if it can sell probably over 30,000 units per month, it's going to be a very common street car, and I don't think this is good for the ET5 or for NIO.
谢谢。
Massive market different story. Massive market 今天我刚刚开完我们的另外一个品牌的会，我觉得那当然一款车我们希望它一个月卖5万台，对吧？这个是不同的细分市场，应该是不同的用户利益。
For the mass market, this is a different story. We just had a meeting today with the mass market team, and for us, we believe the mass market product can sell probably over 50,000 units per month.
For one model.
Yes. For one model, because this is different market segment and different target user group.
User interest different. Thank you, Wang Bin.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from Jeff Chung with Citi. Please go ahead.
William 你好啊，我是华西的 Jeff， 想问一下这个就一个短的问题，是关于4季度的我们那个目标啊，如果用最少的4.3万来看的话呢，而这个爬坡的线性的话，就是说每个月是37个点的一个环比增长。那就是说达到12月的峰值大概18800左右。那我想问，这个第一，您感觉是一个线性的这样的一个爬坡吗？还是可能更多的这个 weight 会放在12月份，可能12月份是突破2万台这样。这是第一。第二就是想问，那如果无论12月是18000或者是2万或者怎么样，您感觉这个ET5我们可以维持一个7000台左右的一个判断嘛？大概这是我的第一个问题。那我翻译一下。So my first question is about the sales volume growth into November and December. So in order to meet our medium quarterly target 43,000 units, and if the month-on-month improvement to be linear at around 37%, we should be reaching around 19,000 units monthly run rate by December. So from which could you break down the volume of a ET5? And the second question is, if this ramp-up pace is going to be non-linear, with most of the weight happening concentrated in December, so could you tell us what kind of elements will be determined our run rate overshoot in December but not in November? Thank you.
谢谢 Jack。我们11月份的话呢，确实还是有一个爬坡的过程。从 ET5 的角度来讲的话，包括 EDS 啊，包括本身它也有一个很自然的这个爬坡的这样的一个过程吧。那12月份的话呢，我们认为它基本上能够这个除了那个碳化硅的这个芯片的这个影响以外，我觉得应该是它能到，应该是超过你刚才说的这个量的所以总体上来讲，当然这个12月份肯定会比11月份产的要多一些吧。我觉得我们还是希望12月份能够突破一个月2万台的这个目标吧，这是我们总体上的一个想法。
Thank you, Jeff, for your question. In November, we will still need some time to ramp up the production, including ET5, considering the factors I just mentioned, like the EDS. In December, except the silicon carbide I just mentioned, I believe we will have more production compared with the production of November. Of course, in December, we hope that we can still achieve over 20,000 production run rate.
好的，谢谢，我没有其他问题了。
谢谢。
No more questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next question comes from Nick Lai with JP Morgan. Please go ahead.
大家晚上好，谢谢威廉跟 Steven 还有管理层。我就两个简单的问题，第一个是有关财务的问题，就是我们手上现金到930，大概有500多，是因为现在客户比较多关心这个行业的这个需求可能的回落，然后竞争加剧等等。那公司的这个 cash burn 大概是多少？那我刚听的就是刚听威廉提到说 incrementally 明年会增加的就是30亿左右，就是假设我们去看今年2023年跟2024年全年的这个资本开支或是 cash burn， 跟今年的这个 delta 这个改变会是增加或是减少，是会哪些部分？就我们看这个手上这个现金足够是能够支持未来几年的这个营运，就可以跟咱们谈一下这 cash burn 的这个 NIO 全球2023年跟今年的 delta。如果假设有这个 CB 快到期的话，也可以把这个考虑进去。那这个是第一个问题。那第二个问题的话，还是有关这个芯片的问题。刚刚威廉有提到说，我们这个芯片储备是比较多的，就是 NVIDIA 的芯片储备比较多，然后也有跟Intel这个是不同的 solution 去谈。那这边这个东西我想再多深入了解一下，这部分应该是在算法相关的这个需求。那在车载芯片就需要算力比较强，比如说我们这辆车载的芯片是 NVIDIA 的这个活跃芯片，需要比较强的这个算力的芯片，这边有没有一些其他的一些类似的 strategy 可以跟我们分享一下？Let me translate my two simple questions. Really, the first question is about the cash burn and the CapEx expectation as we move into 23 and 24, and also take into account of incremental investment CapEx as well as potential CB. The second question again is on the AI and chip supply strategy, and we can just talk about the potential alternative solution. We have enough stock of NVIDIA A100 chip, and we're also looking for cloud solution that's related to algorithm. What about the chip that's being used in the car? Thank you.
Hi Nick, this is Danny. As introduced by William and myself, we will further improve our SG&A operating efficiency, and furthermore, our R&D expense will keep stable compared with relatively stable compared with 2022. So operating cash flow wise, I think we are quite optimistic to achieve the positive working operating cash flow in future years. So our cash burn mainly depends on the capital investment. Now we are planning our next year's budget, and from the generally I think the total scale of capex in next year will not increase so significantly compared with this year. But you know, we are planning more like sales and service network, and also we are planning more production and also supply chain capacity. So at this moment, I won't give you the clear guidance, and we are also confident that our cash on hand can supply our ongoing operation till break even is finally achieved.
Yeah,
thank you.
对，所以总体来讲，我们当然清楚现在市场有很多的这种不确定性啊。从我们总体来讲，我们相信以我们现在的这个 现金的这个储备，加上一些这个合理的一些包括银行方面的这样的一些这个资金的支持，我们应该是可以有足够的信心，我们可以到公司的一个全面的盈利的，这个我们还是有信心的。我们在财务方面的纪律还一直都是非常的严格的。那么当然说到芯片的问题的话呢，你要不先把它翻芯片方面。
Overall speaking, we understand there are still many uncertainties in the market, but I believe with our current cash reserve and also the bank facilities, we should be able to support the company's operation until we break even. So we don't think this is going to be a huge challenge for the company.
那芯片的问题的话，当然我们前面也讲过了 A100 的这个事情，这个训练芯片，这个云端的训练芯片也讲过了。车端的这个芯片的话呢，我也可以简单的讲一下这个进展，就是当然我们是全球第一个首发这个英伟达的这个 Orin 芯片的啊，比我们同行要早6个月。那么我们和英伟达的合作关系当然非常的紧密。那另一个方面的话呢，我们从去年开始也在积极的研发这个我们的这个 AD 的这个芯片啊。那目前我们已经有这个500多人的团队在这个项目上，那么进展还是非常的顺利。其实大家应该很清楚，这个 AD 的芯片它和算法它们之间的这个关联度是非常高的。如果从我们 AD 的这个算法的角度来讲，去定义这个芯片，它的效率会要高很多啊，当然也能够显著的改善我们的毛利啊。所以这方面的话呢，当然还没有这个就总体进展是比较顺利的。
Regarding the chipset, previously we have already addressed the AI training chipset, that is the NVIDIA A100, and now I'd like to probably elaborate more on the onboard chipset. We are the first company in the world to launch our product that is equipped with NVIDIA Orin, which is actually 6 months earlier than other companies. We also have a very close collaborations with NVIDIA. But at the same time, last year we have already kicked off the R&D of our AD chipset. Right now we have around 500 people working on the AD chipset. I believe it is commonly acknowledged that AD chipset is closely coupled with the AD algorithm. If we can use the AD algorithm to define the design of the AD chipset, the overall efficiency can be significantly improved, which can also contribute to our vehicle gross margin. The overall progress of the AD chipset R&D is on track, and we have seen some positive achievement from the team.
谢谢。我可以追问确认，就是刚 Stephen 提到说，明年的 OP cash flow 是预计 turn positive， 是对吗？就确认这个事情。
Yes,
yeah. Okay, yeah, thank you. 好，谢谢关宇哲，谢谢大家。
Our next question comes from Jane Chang with CICC. Please go ahead.
好的，非常感谢管理层非常详尽的分享。我这边再追问几个小的问题。然后首先第一个问题是关于这个生产爬坡方面，就是介于现在目前比较复杂的外部环境，大家其实在生产爬坡方面都遇到很多的困难。稍微如果往中长期看一点的话，就这个整车生产这个环节，我们是否会考虑从现在的这个代工模式转向这个自建产能？然后关于说进一步，比方说获得这个生产资质方面，不知道未来如果我们想要去做的话，会有什么难点吗？然后以及说，如果这样模式转变，是否会对我们的新车爬坡以及这个制造成本产生一定的优化？ 这是第一个问题啊。然后第二个还是关于这个研发和 capex 的一个投入的一个和边界的问题。就是目前当前这个资本市场环境可能并不是特别好的一个状态。那考虑到未来几年以及国内比较激烈的一个竞争环境的话，对于研发和资本支出的投入和边界的问题，我们在什么情况下可能会采取更保守的一些战略，以及我们的组织啊或架构方面能否比较灵活的进行这样的一个调整。第三个一个小的问题就是，刚刚这个宾总这边也提到关于 MPV 车型，可能我们目前还没有这样的品类，然后我们怎么去看这个可能 MPV EV 的这个细分市场？因为确实有很多的竞品品牌在推出这样的车型，那我们会有这个打算说未来会有这方面的新车规划吗？主要是这三个问题。So my first question is about in a current external environment. Everyone encountered a lot of difficulties in production. So in a longer term, will we consider switching from OEM mode to self-build production? Are there any difficulties in obtaining qualification, and will it optimize our new product ramp-up speed or manufacturing cost? And my second question is regarding to R&D investment and capex, about the boundary of our in-house R&D. As we can see that in the third quarter, our R&D further extends to 2.8 billion RMB. So consider the current capital market environment and the much more intense competition in Chinese EV market in a few years. Will we adopt a more conservative strategy for R&D and capex? So under what circumstances we will adjust our current strategy, and whether our organization is flexible enough to adjust. And the last question is about just mentioned MPV models. So what do we think of the MPV market? Will we launch the new product pipeline in this segment in the future? That's all my three questions.
好，谢谢。第一个问题，我们这个 F2 的工厂，我们仍然是和 JAC 在进行合作啊。那我们现在的合作是挺好的，我们目前也没有不觉得这整车生产已经不是在短期内已经不是我们的瓶颈了啊。所以我们前面也讲到了，我们已经具备单班30万的这样的一个产能啊，就2个工厂各15万，单班啊，大家想象一下，如果是双班的话，可以再 double 一下啊。那所以短期内这个我们觉得在短期内啊，在可见的这个一段时间之内是能够支撑我们的整车的这个生产的。我们确实呢，在供应链方面的话呢，有一些这个有的时候，这也当然也不是我们一家公司的问题，整个行业都有这样的一些压力，就波动性的问题啊。当然我们随着我们整个的产量越来越多啊，这方面的这个我们也应该是有具备这样一些抗风险的能力。那第二个问题就是我们当然会有自己的一个边界啊，就整个的这个现金的水平，我们手上的在手的现金，研发的投入，我们前面也讲了，我们基本上会保持每个季度30个亿左右的一个投入啊，是把我们全部的研发投入都算在内的。当然这个 capex 方面，我们也会这个更积极的去提高这个投入的节奏和效率。所以总体上来讲，我们在这方面的边界，财务管理的边界还是非常严格的。第三个问题，要不 Steven 你可以说一下，一会儿说吧。
For the Factory 2, we are still working together with JAC. I believe our joint manufacturing cooperation has been quite positive. Regarding the vehicle production, I believe the vehicle production capacity can support the company's delivery target in the short term. Previously, I've already mentioned that for one plant, we should be able to achieve 150,000 units under one shift. And if we combine the two plants together, the Factory 1 and Factory 2, then it means that under one shift, we should be able to achieve a production capacity of 300,000 units. If we double this to 2 shifts, then the production capacity can also be doubled. When it comes to the supply chain, of course, there are some volatilities for the whole industry, not just for NIO. But as we ramp up our production capacity and the delivery, I believe we have the capability to mitigate the risk of the supply chain. For the second question regarding the boundaries of our investment, previously have already mentioned that we do have a sufficient cash reserve to support the company's operations. And when it comes to the overall investment for R&D, every quarter we expected to have to invest around 300,000 RMB for our 300,000 actually for 3 billion. Sorry. Every quarter we expected to invest around 3 billion RMB for R&D efforts. So this includes all the R&D initiatives we have explained previously. For the capex, we will improve the efficiency on the capex investment, and we do have a very strict management regarding the finance and the investment of the company.
Okay, Tony, with regard to the MPV market, our strategy is very simple. In the short term, we have no plan to launch MPV model. Of course, long term, we'll keep monitoring the Switch market. We have also noticed that recently this market is very hot. From the supply side, several Chinese brands have launched their high-end MPV models. But from the demand side, at least right now, the MPV segment still remains a niche market. But that's why we would like to keep monitoring and then decide what to do in the next several years.
谢谢唐静。
好的，谢谢。
Our next question comes from Yuqian Ding with HSBC. Please go ahead.
好，谢谢管理层，谢谢刚才的分享。我有2个想跟进的点啊，就是刚才讨论过毛利率和这个智能驾驶，想请教一下公司明年毛利率提升的空间。这个主要是来自于规模效应提升，因为我们看到 mix 大概有多少？因为 mix 的角度，如果 ET5 卖的更多的话，可能看起来会往下走一些。明年 Q4 的这个 break even 的这个里面，我们的这个管理层的假设对于理价的这个。假设大概是多少？是目前60万吗？还是说明年我们 Q4 的 break even 需要理价做一下 normalization？ 然后第2个想请教智能驾驶，目前我们对于这个城市场景的这个能力的推出大概是什么时间表？什么时候智能驾驶能从一个辅助帮忙卖车的项目变成能够 support 支持我们的这个利润率？I got 2 questions. First is to follow up on the margin side. So next year's gross profit margin improvement, will that be mainly coming from the increasing economic scale? Could we have some quantification over there? Because we see from the mix side with more ET5 in the mix could be coming down a little bit. And also we talked about a Q4 break even. Does that based on the current lithium price assumption or in our Q4 break even assumption that basically baking normalizing of the lithium price? And the second part is to ask what's the city pilot on the autonomous driving side, what's our timeline to push for city pilot? And when do we expect our autonomous driving capability to improve from a help selling vehicle item to support materially on the margin side?
好，谢谢于倩。这个我们当然目前来看的话，确实。这个碳酸锂的价格确实这个没有按照大家预期的那样，在今年 Q4 有一个显著的下降啊。那当然我们现在在对明年总体上来讲，当然就像我前面说的，我不觉得这是一个供应的问题啊。这个其实现在确实也没有哪个汽车公司买不到电池啊，都能买得到电池。那我们当然也看到了，在过去的这一段时间，也有一些这个新的这样的一些这个锂矿的这样的一些投产。我们自己是觉得明年锂价碳酸锂每吨的当量碳酸锂的这个当量的话，我们觉得应该是会回落到30到40万的一个区间啊。当然我们现在可能在做预算的时候，我们还是会保守一点，我们基本上按照40来万去做这样的一个预测，去做这样的一个展望啊。那这是我们大体上的一个在锂的这一块 价格这个方面的一个判断吧。
Thank you, Yuqian, for your question. As of now, of course, the lithium carbonate cost is not going down as we expected in the fourth quarter. But like I explained previously, I don't believe this is a supply issue because if we look at the market right now, all the car companies can actually get sufficient supply of the batteries. For us, regarding the lithium resources, we have seen some lithium resources enter the market in the past year. And we expect probably next year the cost of the lithium carbonate is going to be around 300,000 to 400,000 RMB. When it comes to the budget planning of the company, of course, we would like it to be more conservative. So our assumption is around 400,000 RMB. This is basically our judgment regarding the lithium carbonate cost probably for the next year.
AD 这个作为一个服务去提升毛利率，确实还需要一些时间，但有一些是因为这个开发的这样一些功能开发的时间。但也有一些法规方面的这样的一些需要等到法规进一步去成熟。然后我们看到最近中国工信部和公安部刚刚推出来了一些试点这当然是比较积极的一个信号。那我们期待，我们认为这个从现在的一个判断的角度来讲，我们觉得可能还需要1-2年的时间这方面的一些法规还有相关的一些一些技术进一步的成熟那短期内还不太可能贡献太多的这个毛利。
For the autonomous driving, I believe we still need some time to see the contributions of autonomous driving to the vehicle gross margin and the overall gross margin. There are several factors. The part is because of the feature and function development, and the part is because of the legislations. Recently, we do see some positive progress on the legislation front. For example, MIT has launched some pilot programs for the autonomous driving, and for us, we believe it will still need probably 1 to 2 years to get mature when it comes to autonomous driving technologies and also the legislations. So in the short term, we expect probably there will not be any significant contributions from the autonomous driving to the vehicle gross margin and the overall gross margin.
好，谢谢于谦。
好的，好，谢谢您。
Our next question comes from Xinqi Yan with CITIC Securities. Please go ahead.
各位观众朋友，你们好，感谢接纳我的提问。我这边有2个小问题。第一个问题，我想请教一下关于3季度的库存。我们看到3季度的库存在资产负债表上有67个亿，这个数字是过去几个季度最高的，然后相较于2季度呢，也基本上3倍了。所以想请教一下，这是不是意味着目前在我们的这个资产端，相较于2季度多了大概1万台左右的这样的一个整车的库存？这是第一个问题。我的第二个问题呢是想请教一下关于 ET5，这个车确实最近是非常的火爆，但是我们也最近看到了一些在这个网络端社交媒体上的一些关于这个车的一些评价，很多人提到说它的这个能耗问题是比较的严重的，就是耗能比较高。那想问一下，就是关于目前消费者的这样的一个反馈，我们有什么样的一个后续的行动？So my first question is about inventory. So the inventory is around 6.7 billion RMB on quarter 3. It is nearly doubled compared with quarter 2. So does this number imply around 10,000 more inventory cars on your balance sheet? My second question is about ET5. It was really hot on the September, but recently we see some negative comments and news on the social media because of its poor performance on energy efficiency. So I was wondering, what's your next moves to deal with the consumers' concerns? Thank you for taking my questions.
Hi, Xinqi. This is Stanley. For the inventory increase in Q3, I think mainly two reasons. One is about our increase of inventory cars in Q3. Our production was negatively impacted by our rear subframe in Q3, so we increased the production of ES8, ES6, and EC6 in Q3. Secondly, it's because the increase of the component inventory to secure the production in the coming months. We stored more key materials like chips and also other raw materials in Q3. So all those factors lead to the increase of our inventory stock.
Yeah， 第二个问题，我们当然这个因为 ET5 的话呢，事实上来讲，它不同的轮胎对这个电耗能耗是影响比较大的。如果你去定我们 ET5 的时候，你选不同的轮胎，你能看到这个range差了很多啊。那有的用户可能对这个没有特别的去在意啊。如果你去选那种性能胎，那确实它和那个低滚阻的胎它差的还是挺大的，因为我们提供很多种轮胎的选择。总体来说 ，ET5 的这个能耗表现是挺不错的啊。这个如果你去选这个低滚阻的轮胎啊，长续航的这种轮胎的话，确实我们也提醒我们的用户，这个如果你是比较性能导向啊，你需要去享受 ET5 的这个4秒以内的加速啊，这等等之类的，你非常享受这个驾驶的驾驶的这个操控啊，还有这些的话呢，你确实可以选择这样的一些轮胎。但如果你是要续航这方面去追求更多的续航的话，或者低一些的这个能耗的话，确实要去选择这个长续航的这个轮胎。这个可能更多的是一种这个误解吧，和驾驶习惯的问题。
Regarding the second question, yes, for the ET5, different tires may have a different impact and a different performance when it comes to the power consumption. If the users choose a performance tire, then the power consumption will be higher. But if the user choose the long range tire or the low resistance tire, then the power consumption performance is going to be much better. So we would also like to remind of the users, if you really enjoy driving and handling and you would like to experience the acceleration of ET5 within 4 seconds, then of course you can go with the performance tire. But if you care more about the drive range, then it's better for you to go with the long range tire, which will have a much better performance when it comes to the range.
谢谢新慈。
好的，谢谢，我没有问题了。
As there are no further questions at this time. As there are no further questions, now I'd like to turn the call back over to the company for closing remarks.
Thank you once again for joining us today. If you have further questions, please feel free to contact the NIO's Investor Relations team through the contact information provided on our website. This concludes the conference call. You may now disconnect your line. Thank you.
The conference has now concluded. Thank you for attending today's presentation. You may all now disconnect.